41-hour filibuster in the Missouri Senate. My gosh. Woo! Unbelievable. All right, you just heard from Bill Eigel as to why he pursued this 41-hour filibuster with some of his colleagues. He said it was in large part about initiative petition reform, which right now it is fairly easy to get the signatures to get something on the ballot. We saw that with the Clean Missouri mess a few years ago. We saw that with recreational marijuana. We could see that this year with abortion. So that's what he says that he was fighting for. But obviously there were plenty of Republicans who disagreed with him on this. And I want to welcome on the guy right in our backyard, Mike Cierpoit, state senator out of Lee's Summit on KCMO. All right, Mike, what is your side of this as to why this 41-hour filibuster happened?
Thank you, Pete. The 41-hour filibuster happens because we've got 2 or 3 people in the Chaos Caucus, or the Freedom Caucus, as they call themselves, that are running statewide, and they get free media and attention for doing it, and that's exactly what it was about. I listened to Senator Eigel, and he talked about how they did it to get 18 Republicans willing to move forward on IP. Absolutely untrue. In the same breath, he said that he tried to go to the IP on Tuesday and talked about all of us not voting on that motion. The reason for that is Bill and his supporters of 3 or 4 think they run the place, and in fact they don't. Cindy O'Loughlin was elected by our caucus to run the place, and in her order, the FRA was next, and that's what we went to, and that's when he threw a fit. He didn't want to go to that. And, I mean, he didn't want to go to the FRA, he wanted to go to the IP. So when he talks about signatures, that was just untrue. What finally unwound this last night was we finally got 18 senators. It takes 18 to move the previous question, and that shuts down debate and brings things forward for a vote. We finally had 18 Republicans who were willing to sign a PQ to bring the FRA.
What's a PQ in an FRA?
I'm sorry, the FRA is a federal reimbursement allowance. That was the bill that was on the floor for the 41-hour filibuster. And what that does, that's how we fund Medicaid in the state. It's very, very important. We get it passed. It comes up for renewal every so often. This is the year it does. And the PQ is moving the previous question, which ends debate and brings things to a vote immediately. That's what finally shut them down, was that we finally had 18 senators. And most of us take moving the previous question very seriously. The Senate is something that very rarely uses that procedural motion. And so it took us about 41 hours. I would cite it against Bill Eigel any time, any day, because he does this silliness all the time. It's good for Bill Eigel's career, in his view. I think he has surged in polling to 3% now. And so I think he thinks this is the method he does to move forward. So I'm not one that hesitates to PQ the Republican Chaos Caucus. I give it deep thought before I do it against the Democrats, because I find they always bargain in good faith. But I would do it against Bill. But some of our members were a little more reluctant, and they had to work through this to get to a point where we could get 18 signatures. But that's why the filibuster finally shut down. And the idea that, as he giggles and laughs and thinks 41 hours is a big deal, the idea that we are not doing public policy for this state, so he can go on Facebook, I've already seen it, bragging about a 41-hour filibuster, just shows you how unserious these people are about moving public policy forward.
Mike Cierpoit is on KCMO. So this initiative petition reform that he's passionate about, is it not something that Republicans agree with him on, or is there another reason that it's taken so long to get to this point? Because I guess I'm thinking in my head, without knowing all the inner workings, why not do IP reform at some point during the legislative session? Everyone's hunky-dory, we all move on, and then, you're closing down the home stretch with other things of importance.
Well, we've already passed IP out of the Senate once. We did that 5 or 6 or 7 weeks ago. It went to the House, and now they've modified it some, and it's come back. Every Republican supports IP reform, every one of them. I would ask Mr. Eigel, how many times has he filed a bill on IP reform in the last? I have for 10 or 12 years of my time down here. I've always filed a bill. It's never got much attention. This year, the world's on fire about it. But every Republican, just like every Republican we have, is strongly pro-life. When we keep making these lines in the sand to trip over, every Republican strongly supports IP reform. If it comes to a vote, it will get every Republican's support, I predict.
Okay, that's interesting. So, and once again, I'm saying this naively, not knowing the day-to-day inner workings. Why does it take so long? Why does it take this long? Why not do that at some point in the last 5 months so we're not chasing our tails here down the home stretch and dealing with 41-hour filibusters?
Well, I can't really explain. If you look at most legislatures, they don't do anything until they have to. Some of this stuff is complicated. The IP reform is something that's not getting all messed up with different issues. A lot of bills get, they call them omnibus bills because people are looking for any vehicle that they can put their stuff on. The IP reform, we had it earlier, and there were some pieces on there like ballot candy. If you remember with the earlier redistricting thing that we had, when they did the IP reform and got signatures, they had a lot of what they call ballot candy, sweeteners, so people would be more likely to vote for it. We've kind of got the same thing on the IP reform. We put things on there about you have to be a citizen to vote, which you already have to do, but it's okay. I mean, I would support it if it gets to a final vote, but that's kind of the tripwire. The Democrats are against some of those sweeteners, and so what we have to do now that they're all on there, when the IP gets to the floor, which will be probably next week sometime, I think we might have to do the budget first, but that's the process. When we get to it, then the Democrats will get engaged, and negotiations will happen then while debate takes place, and we'll see what we can work out. But we can't do that until we get to the bill, and we're going to work the bill in the order that the floor leader decides, not King Eigel, because he would love to run this place, but he has little support in it, so he cannot.
So really this breaks down, Mike Cierpoit, to you as being about politics for folks in the Freedom Caucus who are running statewide.
That's all it's about, getting them attention. If you follow us this year, first of all, if you followed us closely this year, I'm sorry for you because that means you have nothing else to do. I'm here, so I have to follow us closely. They have stood up early in the year, the first 2 or 3 weeks, they killed this place with filibusters for 2 weeks, demanding we get IP out of here. We would have got IP out of here 10 days before we did if they wouldn't pull that silliness. But they are Facebook senators. They love being on Facebook. They love clicks and likes. They could care less about good public policy, just like cutting property taxes. Everybody hates property taxes. We have counties that get 45% of their funding from property taxes. Eigel does not care.
Mike Cierpoit on KCMO. Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate your perspective as well, and good luck down there. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Pete. We'll see you.
All right. Thank you very much to Bill Eigel and Mike Cierpoit. You got both sides of it. You to figure out what side you like.